right. Good Thursday evening, South Carolina weather watchers. I'm your meteorologist, Jess Peterson, and let's go in and talk about the weather for your Thursday evening going into your future. We have some stuff that we are going to go on and talk about tonight. We do have some stuff that we're going to go on and talk about tonight. But before we go on and even get to that, what's going on in terms of what's on tap for tonight? Well, for the most part, number one, it will in fact be a bit interesting as we go throughout tonight. We'll talk about the weather for our current conditions tonight. We'll talk about tomorrow's weather. We'll talk about our short-term future for this weekend going into our long-term future in the next week. And we're going to just talk about our severe weather threat as we go into Saturday. And then as we go into early next week, we'll see a sharp cool down and that warm air leaving us. So, we'll see all of that as we go into the next couple of days. But before we get into that, if you've not hit the like button yet, go on and do so. Right now, so far, seems like around a good 4 people have tuned in, only one like so far. So go and hit the like button. Also, make sure that you go and hit the subscribe button. We are at 706 trying to get to that main goal of 800 subscribers. And then also make sure that you go and hit the share button. Share with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, people that you don't even talk to, because it really does help us out over here on the channel. So let's go on and look at our live conditions. What's currently going on right now throughout the entire state of South Carolina? Well, right now, absolutely nothing. We are nice and dry right now, as there is nothing going on right now throughout the entire state of South Carolina. But what about if we go on and look at the entire U.S.? Well, definitely a way different scenario, as we have rainfall going on from the mid-Atlantic, Pennsylvania, down to Maryland, Washington, D.C., going on in West Virginia, Virginia as well. You also do have some rainfall going on in Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, and then maybe even some rainfall with some severe weather ongoing. You have severe weather going on in Illinois, severe weather going on in Indiana as well, and even some severe weather down here inside of northwestern Tennessee. And so this is all kind of coming together, as there's now a tornado watch going on over here. Now, for the most part, it already expires in about an hour and, pretty much 2 hours now at this point. So, for the most part, they're not really seeing too much right now except for just some rainfall. But we also do have some heavy snow as well. I mean, to the west, Des Moines getting in on some heavy snowfall. Eastern Nebraska getting in on some heavy snowfall. Going on over here inside of the western parts of the state, you have some heavy snowfall going on as well. Now, what if we go on and look at what's going on in terms of cloud cover? Well, cloud cover right now actually seems to be more on the clearer side. I know, clearer side. Even though if we go on and look at the future cloud cover, kind of looks like that. I mean, kind of looks like some cloud cover along the edges, but the middle part of the state definitely clear. Now, looking at that cloud cover for the future, remember the blue is the cloud cover and the white is the clear skies. As we get later into tonight, you can start to see that cloud cover will continue to go on and move its way through. As you get towards like 3 o'clock, going into 4 o'clock in the morning here on Friday, going all the way over into around 8 o'clock in the morning, going into 9 a.m. on Friday as well. And we just stay cloudy as we go all the way throughout the morning time frame tomorrow. Going even into the afternoon, you'll start to see a little bit of clearing going on over at around like 3 o'clock p.m. right here on Friday. You'll start to see again 6 o'clock p.m. You'll start to see some more clearing going on here and there. But that cloud cover will always come back as you go all the way into Saturday, 3 o'clock in the morning, going all the way to 7 o'clock in the morning as well. Even going into the afternoon on Saturday, still looks cloudy outside. Current temperatures right now, you have around a good 63 in Somerville, as well as 62 in Charleston, 63 in Beaufort, as well as 61 in Hilton Head, 67 in Orangeburg, and 63 in Georgetown, 62 in Merrill's Inland, and 59 in Myrtle Beach, 64 in Conway, 66 in Florence, 66 in Sumter, as well as 67 inside of Columbia. You also do have around a good 68 in Aiken, 64 in Newburgh, and 65 in Lawrence, 65 in Greenwood, and 65 also inside of Anderson, 65 in Clemson, and 64 in Greenville, 66 also inside of Spartanburg and Gaffney, as well as 64 in York, Rock Hill, 65 in Lancaster. Now, what's going on in terms of your air quality? Air quality, for the most part, is inside that moderate category. You do have a little good area, a little 0 to 5, or 50, going on over there near like the eastern Berkeley County areas that goes all the way from Jamestown to Georgetown's included in there. On Andrews is included in there as well. But everybody else inside the moderate category, that's not a bad thing. Pretty normal. So nothing to really be concerned about. Low temperatures for tonight. Look at these low temperatures. You have around a good 62 in Greenville, as well as 62 in Spartanburg, 62 in Rock Hill, as well as 63 in Anderson, 62 in Lawrence and Newberry, as well as 64 in Columbia, 63 in Camden, and 63 in Florence, 64 in Sumter and Orangeburg, as well as 63 inside of Barnwell. 61 in Walterboro, and 60 in Moncks Corner and Kingstree, 59 in Georgetown and Myrtle Beach, as well as 58 in Charleston, 60 in Hilton Island. High temperatures for tomorrow, you have around a good 77 in Greenville, Spartanburg, as well as 78 in Rock Hill, 77 in Anderson and Lawrence, as well as 78 inside of Newberry, 81 in Columbia, and 80 in Camden, and 80 in Sumter, as well as 82 in Florence, 81 in Dillon, and 81 in Kingstree, 80 also inside of Moncks Corner, and 81 in Orangeburg, Barnwell, 71 in Charleston, and 77 in Georgetown. As you go into your rainfall, as we move throughout the next 24 hours or so, 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch for a good amount of the state. Some areas might get to around a 10th of an inch to a quarter of an inch as you go throughout the next 24 hours, but it looks like the 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch for most of the state of South Carolina. Now, the only parts that aren't really in it is like the very eastern parts, which kind of does make sense because this rainfall is coming from the west. Crazy score. What is the crazy score? Well, the crazy score is a score that we see how crazy the weather is throughout the entire state of South Carolina, and right now we are at a 22. Why are we at a 22? Well, it is pretty obvious as of why cloud cover is going on throughout the state. And then also, it's going to be still a bit breezy in spots. I mean, not bad, but still a bit breezy in spots. Also, a patchy fog potential, late night into early morning. Patchy fog likely developing after midnight into pre-dawn. Visibility reductions possible in spots as well. The coastal and the low country areas are less prone due to marine influence, but possible in low-lying southern areas, otherwise dry for most. So that's what we're looking at here. No precipitation really is expected as we go throughout tonight. That will change as we go into tomorrow. Now, what's going on in terms of our thunderstorm activity? Well, we were just talking about this, and we were just talking about rainfall. So here we go on Thursday, February the 19th. Nothing is expected here in terms of thunderstorm activity. We go into Friday. Friday, everybody has a chance for a thunderstorm. Everybody has a chance for a thunderstorm on Friday. So make sure that you are watching out for that. And then Saturday. Saturday is the day that I have my eye on the most. If you saw my YouTube short a little bit earlier, I talked about this threat for severe weather on Saturday. A little marginal risk here of severe weather. Now it's a marginal risk. A marginal risk is the lowest of the low risk in terms of severe weather, level 1 out of 5. But with this comes a threat for, winds of up to 40 to 50-ish miles per hour, maybe even some isolated gusts of up to 60 miles per hour. Hail, stones of up to an inch is possible. An isolated tornado or two is possible. Relatively weak is what we're looking at. But I've seen some models say tornado instead of marginal tornado. So, could we potentially see, the ingredients in the atmosphere are primed for it if they continue like how it's supposed to be. Right now it looks like that the chance they could potentially increase some of us to a slight risk. We'll see what happens. But I think that they definitely could. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens, though. Now, we're going to look at the models for this as we go into, the future, but that's pretty much all that I have in terms of just updates from the SPC. All they really just say is that probably it will be Friday, during, the afternoon. It could last pretty much all the way from, the late morning, afternoon, going into the evening hours as well. Now, as we go into fire weather, nothing for the next couple of days, so we're good there. Excessive rainfall, we're good there. So let's go in and look at the models. We're going to start off here on the short term. We're going to look at convection first, then we'll go in and look at the ingredients to see, what's there. We're going to start off here at 9 o'clock p.m. As you go on and push this forward, you can see that we stay dry as we go all the way throughout 12 to 1 o'clock in the morning. We are still dry. Then as we get into around 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, you start to see some rainfall starting to move its way in from the west, impacting areas like Rock Hill, impacting areas like potentially the southern Midlands, maybe even a part of the northern, northwestern low country area, upstate potentially, just to the west of Rock Hill as well. And some of this could potentially not only be light, but potentially even moderate precipitation at times. Now, if we go even more forward, here's 7 o'clock in the morning right here. Now you're seeing rainfall going on throughout, the eastern low country, throughout the PD, the Grand Strand areas. And then, as you get even at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, now you have like a little line moving its way through. You have a little line moving its way through from like the southern upstate going into like the northern Midlands as well. You have some rainfall going on throughout the southwestern or maybe even like the very southern Midland areas. And you just see like this line right here, just of showers and potentially thunder rolling throughout the state. That goes throughout the state, all the way through the afternoon hours. And then by the time you get to around 5 o'clock p.m., 6 o'clock p.m., you really start to see rainfall calm down. But, we're still not going to be done. We get to 9 o'clock p.m. on Friday, going all the way to 10 o'clock p.m. on Friday. I mean, you're still seeing rainfall, even as you go into 12 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I mean, just look at all this rainfall that we have that spreads out as we get all the way into Saturday at like 4 a.m. You go all the way to 6 o'clock in the morning, moving on all the way to 7 o'clock in the morning. Rainfall still moderate at times going on Saturday morning. I mean, just like a lot of people will be waking up to rainfall Saturday morning, all the way into the late morning hours, going into the afternoon time frames. I mean, we may start to see a little bit of reduction in that convection in the upstate by the time you get into around like Saturday late morning going into the afternoon. But for the most part, it looks like that most of that rainfall will kind of just start to push its way down towards the coastal areas instead of the upstate. So you get here around 12 o'clock p.m., going all the way into 1 o'clock p.m., and now you start to see it kind of pushing off the coast a little bit. And so this is our little severe weather maker that we might have to watch out for. You start to see this rainfall going on, and I'm really watching out for that low country area. That's my area of concern right now. Is looking at especially that lower low country area, Beaufort, Hilton Head Island, going on towards Allendale as well, just towards like that area, and then other areas as well. That's the area that I'm looking at for the most part. That goes all the way through to around 4 o'clock p.m. and, even by 7 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, you still are seeing some rainfall going on throughout parts like the very western low country going on over inside the northern upstate as well. But that's pretty much all that I have to say here in terms of the state, in terms of the convection for the short-term future. But let's go on and look at the dew points. So instead of just going through all of that again, we're just going to go on and just look at it from Friday night going into Saturday. I mean, you go on and push this forward. Are the dew points there? I mean, they are, but I'm really only seeing it more in the low country areas. And so, like I said, that's my main area of concern right now. Severe weather definitely is still possible for parts of the Midlands, as you saw by the update, but, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they also saw a little bit of a reduction inside of the severe risk inside of the more northern parts of the state that it had in, and just because the moisture, I mean, yeah, it's in the 50s, but that's not too prime. I mean, if you want to see severe weather, you need to see that in the 60s. You need to see dew points in the 60s. I mean, I see even, what is that, a 70 over there? I see like 69, like that's very close to 70. So, very, very close. Maybe some isolated spots can get to 70 degrees in terms of dew points. So the moisture is there, especially for the low country areas. Looking at your height in the atmosphere, I mean, you have those winds up there, not the strongest of the strongest, but, you have winds 60 to 70 knots-ish or so. Not like it is up here to where they have like knots 90, 80, 90 knots, stuff like that. But even as you go into the surface-based Cape as well, from what I just saw, Mr. Chris was asking me what was the current Cape. I saw that inside the chat a little bit earlier. And, if we go in and look at it, this is Cape at 3 o'clock in the morning, obviously, not really too much of a severe threat there, but, you push this forward all the way into around like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then there goes a little bit of a Cape uptick as you go to 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you're seeing Cape levels of up to 1,200, 1,300 or so. And then as we continue this even further, it actually kind of goes away by the time you get into the evening hours. So something to look at there. That's why they have it in the marginal risk right now, because the things are just too uncertain right now. Things are too uncertain. We're looking at this model right here, and it has the Cape gone. By the time we get into like the more early afternoon, I mean 2 to 3 o'clock p.m., it has the Cape trying to get out of there by that time frame. So, we just have to continue to watch as we go into, especially tomorrow night for sure. But that's why it's a marginal risk. The chance is there, but right now things are just too uncertain right now. Things are just too uncertain right now. One thing that definitely is not uncertain is, if we go in and look at it right now, lightning flash density. We will have thunderstorms. I mean, that's something for sure. I mean, you see thunder going and lightning going on throughout pretty much a good amount of the low country, midland areas, PD, Grand Strand areas, even parts of the upstate, getting some thunderstorm activity. I mean, as early as 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. So, that's one thing that I will say. One thing that I will say is that, this thunderstorm activity that we see here, is definitely, there will be some of that. Even if there is no severe weather. But yeah, so we're just going to continue to watch for this. Make sure that your plans are in place, because like I said, all 3 hazards are there according to the SPC. So make sure that you have that plan in place just in case a tornado warning happens, a severe thunderstorm warning happens, a severe weather statement happens, whatever may happen. We just got to continue to wait and see what happens. Now, what about in terms of the long-term future? Well, this is significant tornado parameters, but I mean, for the most part, pretty much the same thing that I just showed in terms of the Cape. So nothing really to show too much there. But what about the long-term future? We're going to start off here at around the 54-hour mark here on Saturday, 1 o'clock p.m. You go ahead and push this forward, and you can see, for the most part, that rainfall really trying to move in. Here's Saturday, 10 o'clock p.m., 1 o'clock in the morning. And, all of that severe weather that we just had in front of it now is, kind of succeeded by a huge amount of rainfall trying to push its way through. I mean, here we go, Sunday at 1 o'clock in the morning. We're seeing rainfall almost throughout the entire state, if not almost the entire state, then probably the entire state. But here we go around 1 o'clock, going to 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning, things really start to clear out. And then that warm air that we, once are really enjoying is going to unfortunately push itself out by the time you get into around 1 o'clock p.m. on Sunday. That cold front's going to move its way through, and it's going to get cooler as we go all the way into Monday. Going all the way into Tuesday as well is going to be cooler. And then a high pressure is going to move its way in, and we are going to start to receive some more warmer temperatures as you go into Wednesday. But that will bring some more rainfall as we go into potentially midweek next week, so definitely watch out for that as we go into midweek. But even as you go on and move into Thursday night, going into Friday of next week, I know 7 days out, so, a bit too far out, but, you see this rainfall moving its way through. And as you go all the way into next week, Friday, and then as you go into the weekend, guess what? We could potentially be talking about the same thing again. More rainfall again, possibly for next weekend. And guess what? Another potential cold front cooling down our Sunday, going into our Monday again as we go into next weekend. So we could potentially be talking about literally the same exact pattern that we had this week. We can be talking about it again next week. Where we warm up, and then we'll cool down. But then we'll warm up, but then we'll cool down again. And then we'll have rainfall during the weekend times, dry during the early part of the week, but then once we get towards the later parts of the week, that rain chance goes up. It's the same thing as we go into next week. And then everything else, it's a bit too far out, but, maybe a little system to watch for as we go into early portions of March. But, that's something to look out for as we get into the next week or something like that. So now that's all that I really have to say in terms of the long-term future in terms of convection. What's going on in terms of our temperatures? Well, obviously, like we just said, warm air, cool air, warm air, cool air, over and over again. Here Thursday, 7 o'clock p.m., you're going to push this forward, going all the way into Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning. We're 20 to 25 degrees above average, and we kind of stay like that even as you go all the way through Saturday, above average. Then as we go into around Sunday, especially going into Sunday morning, temperatures will start to drop from being more just above average to near normal. Near normal temperatures all the way through Sunday, going into Sunday afternoon. And look as we get into Sunday night. I mean, we're seeing temperatures now 15 to 20 degrees below average as we go into Sunday night, going into Monday. And that will continue throughout a good amount of the first part of the week next week until finally another little warm up will be trying to make its way through as you get into Thursday, as you get into Friday as well. And then, like I said, another cold front potentially moving its way through as we get into around Sunday again of next week. So, not like in the next couple of days next week Sunday, but the week after next week Sunday. Now, what about exact temperatures? Well, exact temperatures for the most part seems to be, if I can go and get it, there we go. We go through tomorrow, we get our temperatures in the 80s for a lot of us, but then, we'll start to see some temperatures in the 60s and 70s as you go into Saturday. But that cold air will move its way through, and guess what? I've been saying it for the past couple of days, and I do mean it because it is an issue. Freezing temperatures are making a return as we get into next week, so make sure that you are prepared for that. Pets, plants, pipes as well, all of that stuff is ready for next week because we will have more freezing temperatures on the way next week. And even as you continue your way forward even more, we start to see that warm up trying to come in as you go into like later portions of next week in the 60s and the 70s for a good amount of us. Will we see any more 80s? Right now, it's not really looking too likely until that, before that next system moves in. And guess what? That next system will also potentially bring in some freezing conditions as well. Let's go and look at the ensembles because that is, almost about 200 hours out or so. So let's go and look at the ensembles real quick and see what they say in terms of our temperatures. Well, if you go in and push this forward, I mean, it doesn't really have it as low because it's on an ensemble scale and it is a long ways away. So, I mean, you have temperatures probably being above average to below average for a lot of areas and for a lot of model runs. So this one is more just showing like some lower 40s, as you get into Wednesday of not next week, but the week after next week, Wednesday. And, it just brings 40s for a good amount, but nothing really quite below freezing. Nothing really quite below freezing. One thing that the ensembles do all agree with is the freezing temperature that we go into next week. So, like I said, that's expected. Expect freezing temperatures again next week. But now that that is out of the way, it is now time for us to talk about the drought predictions. So if you have no idea what the drought predictions are, they are the predictions that we go on and see throughout the state of South Carolina. We guess and see what the forecast is, and it's made by the U.S. Drought Monitor. U.S. Drought Monitor goes out and put out the drought map, and we try and guess, and we see if we can guess the forecast correctly. So I'm going to go in and make my prediction real quick. Go in and vote inside the chat if you have not already. Go on and vote, because after I'm done with my prediction, I go on and see what the results are. We're going to go on and just reveal it. But we're going to go on and look at that right now, looking at the models for the past 7 days. So this is the past amount of rainfall that we've gotten over the past 7 days. You can see a good amount of rainfall in the upstate. This is some very beneficial rainfall that was needed up here inside the very far upstate because that's where the biggest drought is. It's up there inside the upstate. Low country didn't really get too much rainfall, especially like in the northern areas, like over here in northern Colleton County. Only got around like maybe 1/10 of an inch and maybe even close to 2/10, but that's about it. But I am seeing a good 2 inches of rainfall potentially up there inside the upstate, going on inside of the northern Midlands as well. So honestly, I am going to be a part of the majority here who says that the drought has shrunk / stayed the same. 33% says that the drought has expanded. 67% says that the drought has shrunk / stayed the same. 0% says that the drought is gone / the abnormally dry stays. And 0% says that the drought and the abnormally dry is gone. So we're going to go in and reveal it. We are going to go on and reveal it right now. So let's go on real quick and pull out a drum roll real quick, and we'll go on and get this thing started and see what the actual results are with it. Oh, I muted it. Okay, let's go on and get that up. There we go. And it seems like for the most part, that it actually may be kind of like remains the same. So yeah, I don't really see anything in here that's really changed too much. We're gonna go and look at the last one. The last one we did was on that last Thursday, being on the 12th. Let me go in and see where it was. It was around right here. Yeah. Let me see. Actually, one of the craziest things that it actually it expanded kind of in some spots, but kind of went away in others. I think the D3, the red area did decrease. But we're seeing some new things actually now that I look at it now from a more broader scale. Williamsburg County, a lot of that county is now in the D2. Clarendon County, a lot of that county now in the D2. Seeing now a good amount of Barnwell County now inside of the D2. I'm seeing a bit more of Horry County as well. Pretty much all of Georgetown County is now inside of the D2 severe drought now. Now all of Berkeley County is inside the D2 severe drought as well. But the one area that we did see some improvement, Spartanburg and Greenville County is now, at least a chunk has been taken out of that D3 extreme drought, now inside the D2 severe drought. But droughts are still going on. You know, we're gonna need to see more rainfall for this drought to be completely, gone and off of our system completely. But we still have a long way to go before that happens. We need to see a lot more rainfall for this thing to really go away. So let's go on now and talk with the audience. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see what the audience has to say for tonight. Oh, I almost forgot. Let me go and give a round of applause to the people who got it correct, including me. So congratulations to you if you got it correct. But let's go ahead and talk with the audience. Starting off with my Aunt Lewis, she was here first tonight. She says, good evening, everyone. I pray that you all had a wonderful day. Well, I did. Thank you so much for asking. She says, today in Georgetown, we had a beautiful day. High was 72. Currently, it's 61. We started off with some clouds as well. So, well, thank you so much for that weather update. For where I am right now, 64. Right now, 64 is our current temperature right now. But even as you go into my actual temperatures for today, let me see if I can get it. Oops. I'm going to have to do, there we go. All right, high temperature for today was actually around 76. So that's where it was, 76 or so. So a bit higher. Mr. Kristen comes in and says, good evening, everyone. Hope you had a great day. Currently at 65 in Moncks Corner. Got to 76 today. So same where I was. Then Milo says, or they're talking with each other. We did not have any rain, but it was a little bit cloudy outside. Mr. Chris talking about the severe weather. There is still a chance, even though it's small. Absolutely, even though that severe weather risk is small, you still have to watch out for it on Saturday. That says, good evening, Joseph in the 360 Weather family. Good evening to you. Yeah, I trust all is well with everyone. It was a beautiful day here in San Antonio. Highs in the mid-80s, slightly cloudy, but mostly sunny. I mean, that's fantastic. Fantastic weather right there. My Aunt Lewis says we can use that rain on Saturday. Absolutely. This rain, even though, there might be a little bit of a severe weather threat, I do believe that this rain will be beneficial. So everybody should be hoping that they get some rainfall, some beneficial rainfall, not just, like a little dusting of some rainfall, but a good dose of rainfall is definitely what we all need. Of that said, my wife, daughter, and I took advantage of early voting here today. It was my daughter's second time voting, so it was a very proud dad moment. Well, congratulations to you for that. And then my Aunt Lewis says it would be nice when we get to warm weather and it stays warm. Well, honestly, I do agree with you. do agree with you for 100%. I think that almost everybody's ready for this warmer weather to come back at this point. Trail says, beautiful day here. I went outside for a walk today. Well, that's glad to hear that you got some exercise today, because it definitely was a good day for it. Now, tomorrow, will it be such a good day? But for right now, it definitely was a good day to go outside, especially if it didn't rain for where you were, which it did not rain at my house, but I know in other parts of the low country it did actually rain, and I actually did see some moderate to maybe even some heavy rainfall going on, relatively in a more like of a smaller scale, but definitely still there. So let's go on now and talk about San Antonio, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as Duncan, Oklahoma. You might be asking, why are we talking about areas that are not inside of South Carolina? Well, because we have people from these areas who tune in almost nightly, and because they tune in almost nightly, we go on and give them their forecast for them. So starting off with San Antonio first, you have low temperatures tonight around 62, high temperatures tomorrow at around 80, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 61. Precipitation tomorrow, not expected. Not expected at this time. Severe weather and excessive rainfall. No excessive rainfall, but severe weather is possible. We've been talking about it for like the past 2 or 3 days now at this point, but that 40 to 69% chance of fire weather within 12 miles of a given point is possible on Saturday, February the 21st, 2026. So definitely watch out for that as you go into Saturday. Don't burn anything if you don't have to. Do not burn anything if you don't have to on Saturday. For your future, looks like for the most part that your temperatures are going to kind of die down as you go into this weekend, but as you go into like mid portions of next week, and I'm going to say this. Nobody freak out. Thursday, you might see your first 90. Thursday, right now, it's looking like sunny with a high near 91. So you may see your first 90 on Thursday. You're on a 90 watch right now, because you're getting very close to that time frame now. Very, very close to that time frame for you to get into the 90s. So we'll see what happens as you go into like later portions of next week. But other than that, though, winds, they're going to be a bit breezy, 25, 30 miles per hour as you move throughout the weekend. And then other than that, nothing else really. What about for Raleigh, North Carolina? You have low temperatures tonight at 59, high temperatures tomorrow at 77, and low temperatures tomorrow night at 52. For the most part, patchy drizzle tonight, chance of showers tomorrow morning, going into like tomorrow, kind of like early afternoon for the most part. And then actually it's going to kind of clear up. You're actually going to start off cloudy, but then you actually clear up actually a little bit as you go into like tomorrow night, for example. So something to look for there. It will be a rainy weekend, though. I will say that 60% chance of rainfall Saturday and Sunday. And then for your future in terms of temperatures will actually be also kind of going down. You'll be cooling down for sure. 77 tomorrow to maybe even 48 on Monday. So you will be cooling down as you go into like next weekend, going into next week. Now, what about for Philadelphia? You have low temperatures tonight at 38, high temperatures tomorrow at 46, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 36. Precipitation is possible tonight. You have a chance of rainfall tonight, patchy fog as well. Tomorrow, rain is expected. You have an 100% chance of rainfall, so you will see rainfall on tomorrow. Now, it's going to be mainly before noon, so mainly going to be during the morning time frame, but you will potentially see some rainfall even after that. And then not only that, but also some patchy fog tomorrow morning as well. And then also, it kind of ends as you go into like tomorrow night. For your future, looks like that you actually will have a bit of a snowy weekend. You have an 80% chance of rain and snow combined as you go into like Sunday. And then Sunday night, you actually have a 70% chance. Yes, a 70% chance of snow on Sunday night, 30% on Monday. So you will see some snowfall as you go into this weekend. And then for the most part, for your temperatures, it looks like that you will just continue to kind of cool down for the most part. You will try to warm back up as you go into like next week, like later next week, midweek going into like later next week, but it's going to be like a long ways away until that happens. And then finally for Duncan, Oklahoma, you have low temperatures tonight at 33, high temperatures tomorrow at 58, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at around 36. So for the most part, No precipitation is expected. That red flag warning is gone now. Precipitation, not expected at this time. So you're good. And in fact, you had like a little critical fire weather thing here. But for the most part, that's pretty much done. As you go throughout tonight, today was your last day for any sort of fire weather activity. So you no longer have to worry about setting a wildfire or anything like that. Obviously you don't have to worry about, can I go outside and burn stuff today? All that kind of stuff, that's done with. So I will just say, just go on and be happy that that is over because obviously there are still wildfires going on inside of Oklahoma and Texas right now as we currently speak right now. So make sure that if something like that does get to your area, though, you know where your evacuation areas are. You know where you could go, or just how to stay safe in general. But like I said, tonight was the last fire weather night. Other than that, everything else should be back to normal. And then for your future, looks like that you will be warming up. Obviously it's gonna cool down. 58 to tomorrow, and then as you get into like Wednesday, highs around 80 degrees. Thursday 77. So you will be warming back up. And that's all that I really have to say here throughout the 4 areas outside of South Carolina. So what's going on right now throughout not only South Carolina, but also throughout the entire United States, including the 4 areas that we just talked about? Well, gusty winds and low relative humidity will bring critical fire weather to those southern high plains Friday. A winter storm will track across the Great Lakes in the Northeast Friday into Saturday, with areas of wintry mix and heavy snowfall from northern New York through southern Maine. So a lot of stuff to talk about here, even some potential flooding going on in portions of western Pennsylvania, West Virginia. We already talked about the severe weather threat as you go into tonight. Really, even though, we have a little tornado watch that's possible as you go throughout the next hour or two. But now just a little slight risk in Indiana, Ohio, northern Kentucky. Severe weather is possible tomorrow. Northern Alabama, northern Georgia, northern Mississippi, central portion of Mississippi as well. And then maybe even southern Tennessee. And then obviously our day, Georgia, Alabama, southeastern Mississippi being on Saturday. But that's all that I think that we have. I don't see anything else really too crazy. I don't see anything else too crazy. We continue to see that winter precipitation still going on over there inside of the west as well. I don't think it talked about that. Winter precipitation in the west, rainfall, low elevation rainfall, high elevation snowfall over there in the west continues. And that's all I can see here. So let me go and check out the chat. Mr. Chris says, everyone, please remember to stay safe and hydrated. Well, absolutely. And top fan of the night for tonight. Maya Lewis started off strong. She was in first place by a mile. But then Mr. Chris came in and kind of made it his game at this point and is actually number 1 for tonight. Maya Lewis at number 2, and then Thad is at number 3. So congratulations to the 3 of y'all for being the top fans of the night for tonight. If you want to be a part of the top fans, you can by joining us here at 9 o'clock p.m., being a subscriber of the channel, as well as going on and being here early and being active inside the chat. If you do all those 4 things, you'll be either at the top or you'll be very close. So let's go and give them a round of applause. So that's all that I have to say here. Make sure that you go on and tune back in tomorrow morning for your Friday morning forecast update, and tune back in tomorrow night for your Friday evening forecast update. We may have to see some, I'm not going to say cancellations, but I'm going to say, I may potentially not be here a couple of forecasts for this weekend. We'll see what happens. But, I'm obviously not really too concerned about the severe weather threat right now, because obviously it's only a marginal risk, and, timing is still off. We're still going to have to see what happens there, and things are just very uncertain about it right now, so I'm not really too nervous about it. But like I said, it could upgrade. We'll see what happens. And then I think that's about all I have to say there. But like I said, I'll be back tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening, whichever time you tune back in. And everyone have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. Be back tomorrow. Hit those two buttons before you leave.